so much to everyone who has tuned in to this video. I truly appreciate you. And if you're new here and you enjoy whispered true crime, please consider subscribing to the channel. I post 2 times a week, on Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I recommend using headphones if you would like to hear the gentle mic brushing. Before we get started, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure your notification bell is on. And please leave it a like if you don't mind. Okay, so today we are traveling back to Manhattan, New York City. Shout out to everyone from the state of New York. So this case took place in November of 2012. And it is a case involving 3 people. So I don't know exactly what to call it. It is the case of Pamela Buchbinder, Jake Nolan, and Michael Weiss. So I'm going to start by telling you about Jake Nolan. Now, a lot of the birthdays and some dates are a little sketchy here because I could not find them exactly, so I sometimes just had to do my own math, you know. So I believe he was born around 1992-ish, okay. And he grew up in Miami, Florida. He was the youngest of 3 siblings. He had 2 loving parents. And he was said to be a very smart, very creative boy. Didn't have a mean bone in his body. When he was 5 years old, he wound up being diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. He was still carrying on as a normal kid though, you know, doing his thing. He had his friends, he was doing well in school. In fact, he was doing so well for himself that he and one of his friends actually created an app. I don't think it's there anymore, I looked for it. The app was called Flash Me, and it was like a study tool for school kids to use. You know, sort of like with the idea of flashcards. It's called Flash Me. But around age 15, he started having a lot of mood swings. He was so depressed a lot of the time and often couldn't get out of bed, couldn't go to school. And he was ultimately diagnosed with depression and anxiety at that time. But it continued to get worse. And when he was 17, he attempted to seriously hurt himself with a kitchen knife. or it is very common. It is challenging to figure out exactly what medication and what combination of medications will be effective in treating psychiatric conditions, and sometimes, so they have to give you one thing, see how that goes. If it's not good, switch it out for something else or add something else, and so that's how he got up to 30 different meds. And it didn't say anything specifically, but I'm assuming that they never really found the correct cocktail, so to speak. But it didn't help matters that he was also drinking alcohol and using illegal drugs at the same time. That certainly was not helpful. Now, at some point in his early adulthood, so I believe around 19, 20 years old, his cousin, whose name was Pamela Buchbinder, she was working in Manhattan as a psychiatrist. She was approximately 22, 23 years older than him. So significantly older than him, but his cousin. And she was living with her 4-year-old son named Calder. Now, she got her degree at the University of Chicago. I wanted to mention that. Which is an excellent school. It's way up there. So that's where she got her degree. So she was obviously a very smart woman. And I also want to clarify, in case anyone isn't really picking up on the fact that she is a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. So she has gone to medical school and she can prescribe medication. Okay. So she told Jake's parents, I would love to take him in. He can live in my apartment. He can help me care for my son. And in exchange, I will give him therapy and I will manage his medications. So they thought, that's a great idea. She was a family member. She was smart. They trusted her. He was having trouble, with his mental illness, so this seemed like a good plan. So he moved in. Now, Pamela had an ex-boyfriend named Michael Weiss. So he's the third person in the case. Okay, so we have those three now. We have Jake, Pamela, and Michael. Okay. Michael was her ex, and he was Calder's dad. Michael was also a psychiatrist working in Manhattan as well. So they had dated for quite a while, and they had actually gone to Jake's bar mitzvah together when he was 13, and there is footage of them at the party. And so that just shows they've been together a while. But they broke up right after Calder was born, and they had a very volatile relationship, and they were having a lot of trouble working out the details in the shared custody of Calder. But at the time, Pamela had primary custody, and Michael had, he had a good amount of visitation. So, as I was saying, was just very, very intense. She was constantly texting him with all these compliments, how he's the greatest. She loves him so much. He's brilliant. She called him things like lovey and sweet and this and that. You know what I'm saying? Really building him up. And he felt like they were like a family unit. Like the three of them were a tight family. Oftentimes in the morning, she would invite him into bed with her and her son. Once again, I don't think it was sexual, but just, a little weird, more than a little, a lot weird, because he would say that he was generally wearing his underwear when he would get into bed with them, because it was morning, they had all just woken up. That's just what he was wearing, and they would just goof around in the bed with Calder. So, she began to tell Jake that Michael, the baby's father, was sexually abusing him, and that he was not paying the child support. And Jake was fuming. Like, he could not believe what he was hearing. This was absolutely unbearable to hear. And so they started to make a plan. What were they going to do about Michael? And according to Jacob later, Pamela had some ideas of, poisoning him or burning him alive in front of a group of strangers, or just other ways of torturing him and ultimately killing him. But Jake could not bear the idea of torturing anybody. That he wasn't willing to do, but he was willing to kill Michael for the terrible things that he had supposedly done to Calder. So, on November 9th, 2012, a change was made in Michael's life insurance. He had a policy for $1.5 million to be paid to Calder if he died. And Pamela made a point that he should really put her name in there as the person who would, be the trustee for Calder. She insisted you gotta put that into it. And so on November 9th, that was officially added to the life insurance policy. Okay, coincidence? On November 11th, 2012, Pamela and Jake went to Home Depot, and you can see the security footage. They went there and they purchased a sledgehammer, a 10-pound sledgehammer that Pamela paid for. On the 12th gonna head straight up to Michael's place. He walked in, and there was another patient getting therapy or treatment or whatever at that time. He had walked right in on them, which probably just looked accidental because Michael knew Jake. You know, they weren't strangers. So Jake just walked right out, and he waited out in the stairwell of, that floor in the apartment building. And he watched for the patient to leave. When they left, he went back into Michael's apartment, and he asked him for some papers regarding financial aid for Calder's school, like his nursery school or whatever it was, elementary school, I don't know. So Michael left the room for a moment to go get these papers, at which time Jake took out the knife, put it in his pocket, got out the sledgehammer, and when Michael returned to the room, he swung the sledgehammer at him, but he missed. I guess he missed where he wanted to hit, which was probably Michael's head, and instead he just got him on the shoulder. So then he started stabbing Michael. He stabbed him like 8 times, and Michael was bigger than Jake, I believe. He was able to get the knife away from him, and he stabbed Jake in the collar. Next thing, the two of them go, flying out into the hallway, screaming. A neighbor called the police because they couldn't help but hear what was going on. The woman said she wasn't going to go out into the hallway and look, but she hears people screaming. She knows that her neighbor is a psychiatrist and possibly one of his patients has attacked him. So while they're out there bleeding in the hallway, Jake snaps a selfie of himself, and he sends it to Pamela. He would later say he did that to show her, okay, this is where we're at here, She has nothing to say about having ever received that photo. Anyway, they were both rushed to the hospital. And luckily, in this story, nobody dies. Can you believe this? Nobody died. Everybody survived this attack. At least physically, I mean, Michael would later say that he has very bad PTSD from this attack, as you can imagine. But anyway, Jake was arrested and charged with attempted murder. He didn't say anything about Pamela right away, but after a few weeks, I guess, when his mind kind of cleared up, he implicated her in the murder. He told everyone that it was her idea. But there were quite a few problems with his credibility. Firstly, he had mental illness. And because of that, unfortunately, whether it's fair or not, people were not so quick to believe everything that he would say. And he didn't make it any better for himself by changing his story constantly. One time he said that the sledgehammer was too heavy and he never used it. Another time he said that Michael went into Jake's bag and got out the sledgehammer and swung flung it at Jake. Like, how would Michael even know there was a sledgehammer in the bag? And why would he bring a sledgehammer like that and never use it? And a third time he claimed that Michael is the one who actually started stabbing him first. So all these different stories, well, you know how it is. Now, it took some time, but in December of 2015, Pamela lost custody of Calder due to the belief that she had something to do with the attempted murder on Michael. And in March of 2016, that is when Jake finally went to trial. And he was around 23 by this time. And he admitted that he did try to kill Michael, but he explained that he did it because he was manipulated by Pamela, that he was a mentally ill person and she had manipulated him into doing this. During the trial, Michael Weiss spoke and he told the judge that the real culprit here was actually Pamela, and he wanted that to be considered, in the sentencing of Jake. So Jake was found guilty of attempted murder, and he was given a sentence of 9.5 years in prison. And then it took a while for them, I guess, to get the evidence, or I don't know why it took so long, but in October of 2017, they finally arrested Pamela for her part in this crime. At the time when they arrested her, she was staying with a friend in Syracuse, New York. And they said that she had her passport on her, as well as her son's passport, which was expired, they said. Not that she had her son, but she had his passport. So they arrested her. She was charged with second-degree attempted murder and first-degree attempted assault. It was believed that she was the mastermind of this crime. And she began by saying, "Nope, it's got nothing to do with me. I didn't tell anyone to do this." That was her original explanation. Ultimately, though, in September of 2022, she accepted a plea deal where she would plead guilty to burglary and assault. So it's a lesser charge. And in this way, she would avoid the potential 25-year prison sentence that she would get if she was found guilty of attempted murder. So she accepted that deal. But a month later, when she went to the sentencing, she said she wanted to take back the plea, that she wanted to switch back to not guilty. She said that on the day that she accepted the plea, she hadn't taken her meds, whatever those were supposed to be, and she was high on secondhand marijuana smoke from the people in the facility who were using it right near her. So she wanted to take back her plea. But the judge said, "Nope, you're not doing it." And he sentenced her to 11 years in prison. And that is the case. She was 52 at the time of sentencing, by the way. So, what do you think of this case? I'll tell you some of my thoughts. certainly did not deserve to get attacked like that and almost killed. And he says that he is suffering emotionally, mentally, psychologically from this attack, and I believe him. But he seemed like quite a stand-up guy to go in there and, try to help out Jake, even though Jake had tried to kill him. And my heart goes out to Calder, their son, who is certainly hurting from this in one way or another, for sure. Now, my one main question that I have to ponder is this. How much responsibility did Jake have in this crime? So, his defense was that he was manipulated by the psychiatrist into doing this crime for her. He thought that Calder was being abused. He didn't know anything about the insurance money, he said. And he just went along with what she asked. He was not psychotic. He never claims that he was. Is it a defense to say that you were manipulated to do something that you wouldn't have done normally? Is that a defense? I mean, clearly it did not work as a defense because he was found guilty. So, I mean, it's a sad situation, but he had free will, right? He knew right from wrong. So he didn't have to do it. He could have walked away from the whole thing when she first brought up the idea of hurting Michael. But he was sucked up into it. And he was so enraged over what Michael had supposedly done to Calder. So maybe in a way it was almost like vigilante justice that he was trying to kill Michael to make up for what he had supposedly done to Calder. And if that's the case, well, vigilante justice is not legal. So, it's not a defense. So I guess I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that it was right for him to be found guilty. I guess the only other thing I'm thinking about is, what was the motive? Was it just the money? Was the $1.5 million that Pamela was going to get, was that the reason why she wanted Michael killed? Or was she really that angry with him regarding their breakup? And was she really that upset with the way he was raising Calder with her? Did she just want complete control over Calder? She did not want Michael to have anything to do with him. And did she realize that she was trying to have the father of her son killed, which would not be good for him in any way? And her being a psychiatrist, she certainly knew that. So, I mean, was Pamela just your typical sociopath, narcissistic killer type? Was that who she was? Probably. Alright, well, I am going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found it to be thought-provoking. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. Bye-bye.